Hello, everybody. This is Jeff Norris from the Office of Extended Learning at the State Department of Alabama, and we are so excited to bring a joint partnership between the Office of Extended Learning, the Alabama Reading Initiative, and the Office of Math Improvements to talk with you today about our K-5 summer camps for math and reading. I have with me Miss Misty Wilson from the Alabama Reading Initiative and Dr. Nikki Johnson from the Office of Math Improvement, who are here to talk a little bit about the specifics for each of their sections in relation to the Literacy Act and the Numeracy Act, and hopefully answer some of the questions you have about data collection and reporting for your K-5 summer camps in summer 2025. Even as the school year closes each May, we know that learning doesn't stop. I like to tell people our summer session is almost like the fourth quarter of a football game. And sometimes we know that fourth quarter is the most important time to catch up and or pull ahead of the other team in the game. And so summer learning really is essential. We're finding out more and more through research and best practices how essential the summer programs are for our students. We have seen so much growth with our students throughout the school year that we know that summertime learning is a great time for us to either fill gaps, to close the achievement gap, to retain growth that we've had during the school year, or just to enrich the learning experiences of all students that we serve. So summer learning is essential. The research is clear. We also are lucky in our State Department to have such a really powerful team of people who are trying to provide resources for our schools and our students. And so along with our State Department of Education, we have legislators who have actually helped fund our summer learning for students. We have outside organizations, community partners, school districts, and a superintendent who really believes in this outside of school time learning. And so when we all come together, we are better together. We know that. We know that with our K-5 students in particular, we actually have some specific legislation that comes with the Literacy Act and Numeracy Act. And so we want to detail a few of those things today. When you are planning with your team for summer programming in your school district, we want to make sure you know about this resource from the State Department of Education. We actually have a K-12 guidance document for summer programming. This particular document is available in both electronic and print versions. It goes through the research and best practices in summer programming. It provides guidance on legislation, especially at the K-5 level. It gives your team proactive planning resources. It gives you checklists and self-assessments. And we had over 10 different sections at the State Department who actually contributed to this document. We're really excited about the final product, and we really hope that it's useful for our districts. So if you have not seen this, you can find this document several different ways. You can click on the link directly in this presentation. You are also welcome to just type in that bit.ly address that's at the bottom of this slide. You can see the memo that was sent out to superintendents. And I would really encourage you, if you haven't already, to print a copy of this document. It is really full of really fantastic resources. There are QR codes linked throughout. There are video resources. There are checklists and all kinds of great things that your summer learning team can use to plan for your programming during the summer. So let's get to the meat of this particular presentation in this slide deck and just go right to the meat. We're going to look at the Alabama Literacy Act and the Alabama Numeracy Act and just hit a couple of high points. I want to make sure we have consistent messaging across all of our different sections of the State Department and make sure that all of our LEAs know the requirements and what those entail. So each local education agency must provide a summer reading camp to K-3 students identified with a consistent reading deficiency with mathematics instruction embedded. This was in the original Literacy Act language. It has not changed. Also within that, it talked about the fact that summer reading camps must have at least 60 hours of time in reading instruction and intervention. So within the Literacy Act, the high points here, every K-3 student with a consistent reading deficiency must be invited to a K-3 summer reading camp and must receive at least 60 hours. I also want to talk about moving beyond this 60 hours. We know that 60 hours over the course of 2 weeks may not be the best method of instruction for our students. That is the minimum number of hours. We let our districts discuss the best way to program that within your district for your students' needs. So there are lots of different options for how that can look. Full day programming based on research really is the best research method for students in the summer. That includes enrichment opportunities and all kinds of STEM and activities and field trips and everything else. And this 60 hours is explicitly needed for reading instruction. So this does not include all of those extra things. So my encouragement to you from the Office of Extended Learning is to make sure you have your 60 hours of reading instruction, but think about a comprehensive program that really meets all of your students' needs. One disclaimer for this is that if you are a full support school, for a K-3, you must invite all of your students to your summer reading camp. If you have a K-3 student with a math deficiency, you must invite that K-5 student with a math deficiency. This is full support schools. So K-3 reading, you invite every student, whether or not they have a reading deficiency in a full support school. But for a full support school with students with math deficiencies, K-5 must be invited. The other piece of this legislation that's really important to identify is the piece that talks about mathematics instruction embedded. I want to clarify, since we have all three of our sections here today, that this means that 60 minutes of math instruction per day, this is K-3, we should have 60 minutes per day, no matter how many days your program is the length of the program. You're going to make sure you have 60 minutes per day. The word embedded within this law means embedded within the program, not embedded within the reading instruction. So again, that 60 hours is protected reading time. We really want this embedded math to be embedded within the program. So find ways to connect your math to the reading that you're doing, to the STEM things that you're doing, to all the enrichment activities. Find ways to pull math into that same programming, but make sure that it is separate from the 60 hours of reading instruction that you are doing. As far as fourth and fifth grade goes, when we bring in the Numeracy Act, we want to make sure that you must invite fourth and fifth grade students who are identified with a math deficiency. This is specific to fourth and fifth grade math because our legislation doesn't specifically mention above third grade for reading summer camps. There are a disclaimer below that we'll talk a little bit more about, but we want to make sure that your fourth and fifth grade students, make sure they have between 40 and 70 hours of time spent in mathematics problem solving. And Nikki will talk a little bit more about what that looks like. We also have presentations on the OMI math units, and you can reach out we'll share those websites later that detail more about the math curriculum. I mentioned that fourth and fifth grade reading was not explicitly spelled out. What we have done is we are now looking at, we have talked about our struggling readers above grade 3, and we know that we have to continue to provide them instruction until they no longer show a deficiency. So with summer, that looks like for our fourth and fifth graders, while they are there for math camp, we can do explicit reading instruction. This year, we were blessed with some extra funding for struggling readers above grade 3. And so there are several school districts who are choosing to use some of that funding for fourth and fifth grade reading camps. If you have students if you're using your funding for that, then we want to make sure that you set a reading goal and progress monitor that goal for your fourth and fifth grade readers. Misty will talk a little bit more about that and clarify anything I said incorrectly when she talks in just a few minutes. So make sure you understand exactly what the expectations are for those fourth and fifth grade students. The last thing I want to mention, I believe, is that all of these materials we'll be sharing these over the next several weeks. Our goal is to make sure you have access to all these materials in plenty of time so that you can ask questions from your regional or state partners. We are all here to help. We actually really appreciate when people reach out and ask questions because it means you are using the resources that we take a lot of time and deliberation to create. Within the guidance document on page 20, there's actually a QR code for all attendance and data collection resources. So this presentation, the slide deck, we're going to create a one-pager that has all of the links to all of the Power School videos and YouTube tutorials. All of that will be located within that QR code on page 20 of the guidance document. We're going to put it in lots of different places to make sure you know exactly what the expectations are. But if at any point you have questions, please reach out to any of the three of us or your regional partners of choice. They can get in touch with us as well. We mentioned listed all three of our websites on this slide as well. We would love for you to check those out. There is an amazing assortment of resources on all three websites, and we are continually adding to those sites and take a lot of pride in curating resources that are really helpful for our district. So please use those sites. If you see something that is not on one of those sites or need something that's not on one of the sites, please let us know so that we can add it for the rest of our districts. And I lied to you, I had one more slide. So this is actually a great transition into Misty and Nikki. This particular presentation, like I said, really details the Numeracy and Literacy Act requirements. The first requirement, or one of the first requirements that each of these two acts have, is that we must develop a platform for us to collect information for our legislative reporting. And I just wanted to take a moment to thank you. I know that last year we started, and Misty will probably echo this, we started a really in-depth data collection process through Power School Analytics and Insights. And I can tell you from the kind of outside looking in that this data is really, really, really important. It is something that Alabama is really becoming known for, is the fact that we use this data to inform all of the things that we do in our state. And the fact that we have a legislature who really supports what we're doing inside our schools is in large part due to this reporting that we give back to them on how we're using this funding and how much of an effect it has. So I want to tell you thank you in advance for taking the time to provide accurate information. Not only is it really good for your students and their instruction, and your teachers for how they formatively change their instruction based on results, it's also really good as a summative document to report out to the people who really affect change in our state. So thank you for that. Thank you for what you're doing in advance, and we are always here to help. And we will have some more information at the very end to talk to you about all reporting requirements and not just summer. But let's take a few minutes to talk about our ARI K-3 reporting requirements. Misty, over to you.
Thank you, Jeff. And as that slide transitions, I love that you took the opportunity to say thank you to our partners in the LEA and the school level. And we do want you to know that Alabama is ahead of the game in that, and thank you for that. But we also want to say thank you to the Office of Extended Learning. I know that Nikki echoes my sentiments with that, because we are ahead of the game in the nation for summer learning. And so thank you for your efforts with that in the Office of Extended Learning and helping us to become better together and to partner into making presentations like this. And so it's an honor for us in the Alabama Reading Initiative and the Office of Mathematics Improvement to partner with the Office of Extended Learning to not only meet but exceed the needs of the students in the state of Alabama during the course of the summer, right? Because learning does not stop. So before I get into this, I'm going to say something that's going to help you as Nikki and I really lay out the requirements and expectations of our summer reading and math camps. So as I begin this portion of the presentation, if you'll remember this, that to meet and exceed the needs of K through 3 students, summer reading camps will serve as the primary path for that. To meet and exceed the needs of 4th and 5th grade students in the state of Alabama, the primary path will be summer math camps. So 2 pathways, K through 3, summer reading, 4 and 5, summer math, And you'll begin to see what I mean by that in just the next few minutes. So here's the good news. Not much has changed since last year. I know, I can hear you all applauding. So not much has changed at all. For your summer reading, K through 3, the interventions are organized by the name of the vendor and by your grade level. So it may say, ARI grade 1, summer 2025, or M class, grade 3, summer 2025, much in coherence with what happened last year. Attendance and progress monitoring will be reported within the platform, just like Jeff just mentioned. Just like last year, summer reading goals will target lowest deficit skills as identified by your end of year universal screener. You will identify at least 2 lowest deficit skills that you want to work on with that student during summer learning, and you will also progress monitor the progression of those students in those lowest deficit skills. Let me say this because I'll say it multiple times. That baseline data from the end of year assessment must be manually entered into the platform. It will not feed automatically from end of year because we won't have that data yet. It comes in a few weeks later. So the baseline data from end of year has to be manually inputted. We recommend progress monitoring at least bi-weekly. So let's say over the course of at least a 4-week camp, you would have at least one mid-progress monitoring point. If you're only meeting 3 weeks, you need to have a mid-progress monitoring point. And all of this is because we want to use that data to inform instruction to meet the needs and accelerate the learning of students. It's a little slow transitioning on my end. So when we look at summer reading interventions, this should look very similar to last year. Just like last year, you can begin as soon as you know who you're going to invite, building out those sections and rostering your students in the SIS, the Student Information System. That's that other side of things, right? So you're going to roster all students who are invited to summer camp, and Jeff will speak to this a little later about the importance of that. And there's some withdrawal information later that he will go over. But you're going to want to roster all the kids who are invited to summer learning camp. There are some videos here, and we'll link those in other areas, like on the Office of Extended Learning website and on the Alabama Power School YouTube channel. But these videos can give you guidance on rostering students for summer learning, and in addition, withdrawing those when need be. Students can be rostered in the SIS starting now, all the way up until when you create your camp. Creating your camp or setting up your intervention within the platform cannot happen until after May 5th. Summer learning interventions will not be made active in the platform until May 5th. So just like last year, we have a chart here that kind of helps you with some bullet points to make sure that you're on track as a team in planning out that summer learning. Jeff's already mentioned his summer learning guidance document. Great resource. As you partner that resource with these checkpoints, you're going to analyze end of year data and your students who have SRIPs to determine who's eligible for camp. You can go ahead and create sections and roster them in the SIS right now, because most of you know you can go click in Power School and see a list of everybody who has an SRIP within the Analytics and Insights platform, and you can go ahead and begin that rostering process. But after the intervention becomes active on May 5th, you can begin the process of setting up that intervention and putting students into the intervention. Based on the end of year assessment, you're going to set at least 2 measurable goals for the student based on lowest deficit skills. And how that works is the end goal is already in the platform for you. When you go to put in your very first data point, your first data point on K through 3 reading students will be the end of year measure in the lowest deficit skill. Your progress monitoring then will monitor the progress of the student in that specific lowest deficit skill. All through summer, students should receive that direct, explicit Science of Reading aligned instruction to close gaps and accelerate learning. You're going to enter students' attendance every day including anyone who is there who's also math. Guess what? That's all K through 3 students, right? Because there are 60 minutes of embedded math into the summer programming. You don't have to have a math goal for those students, but we will be taking attendance, and Nikki and I are going to share data when it gets time for legislative reporting. Daily, you can enter any notes of importance and engagement if applicable. So let me talk about that. Talk with your staff, your LEA, your regional support, and decide together, do you want to track engagement or not? There are benefits, but again, that is optional if you as an LEA decide to do so. Biweekly, at least biweekly, we want to progress monitor the students in the areas of lowest deficit or those subtests of our assessments, like pseudo words or correct letter sounds or accuracy, whatever the deficit may be. Students should have at least one mid-progress monitoring point throughout the course of the summer camp. You're only going to progress monitor in the deficit area, and you're going to use this to inform instruction. At the end of camp, this is very important. Administer that last progress monitoring piece in the subtest and enter that data. That's your post measure, and it's only in that area of deficiency. We're not doing the full battery of assessment. We're only doing the subtest that align with the area of deficiency for rating. Enter the final summer measure, any notes of important and very important, close out summer camps. At least like the day after, the next few days after camp closes, go ahead and close out that summer camp because it prepares you for legislative reporting. And Jeff, I think it's okay for me to mention here, you stop me if you don't want me to, but we have it on very good authority from Ms. Royster that they're working on an option within Power School that will automatically close out those camps a certain number of days after the end date. If that happens, that'll be magic, and we'll let you know if it does. One more thing, I think. This is just another sample of what it looks like when you're in the platform and you're entering those goals. Let's say that your student has a decoding goal. The very first measure that you would enter there of that decoding goal was the end of year measure. Let's say the student only decoded 16 words accurately and automatically in a minute. So your first measure would be 16. So let's say a week later or 2 weeks later, you progress monitor and they're at 25. Well, you would put in that same spot 25, and it would automatically measure the change, the growth or the decline of the student for you. Again, it's only in those areas of deficiency. So again, I want to say this one more time. Your baseline data has to be entered manually for those areas of deficiency. And then your progress monitoring has to be entered manually within that platform, within that goal, to monitor the progress of students.
That slide is transitioning. I wanted to express my appreciation for this group and how thrilled we all are to have collaboration within the State Department of Education across all the different sections that are involved in the learning for summer camps. So we'll start, you'll see a lot of those similarities in the names of the slides and some of the information within. And I'm going to try to point out the differences between math and reading in this part of the presentation, but please go back and read so that you're careful if I have missed one or that you are sure you have all the information. So summer math camp student growth data, the interventions are also organized by grade level. Summer math camp daily attendance and minutes spent, that's a difference in math, will be documented in the Analytics and Insights platform for all 4 or 5 students attending summer math camp. And just as a reminder, K3 students will be included in the summer reading camp intervention data. So you won't have to enter information twice. Everybody cheer. We really tried to work to limit your work and not have you duplicate work. All K5 students attending summer math camp must take a math pre and post assessment. That's in our law. And they will use the approved end of the year score from the formative math formative benchmark assessment, excuse me, those need to be approved by the Elementary Math Task Force. So there's a fourth administration of the Elementary Math Task Force approved formative benchmark assessment, and that needs to be done before July 31st. That will be the post assessment. So to reiterate, the pre-test for summer is the end of the year score for the student. And the post-test is a fourth administration. In this next slide, in this next paragraph, we'll talk about how that's reported by the vendors, and the growth will be determined by using that vendor reported data. So combining the paragraph above and this paragraph, LEAs are encouraged to speak to your vendors early and often about making sure that they're set up to do a fourth administration of the benchmark assessment and ready to report the data by that deadline of August 14th. Again, this is the same information, so refer back. We're excited that we have videos that were done by Ms. Royster and her team. And these samples I wanted to note are from last summer. And some of the videos also are stating for reading, but they are for math. So don't get confused by that if they have the different label on there. If it's specific for math or specific for reading, that will be highlighted. And that date is, again, May 5th to roster students. But you may begin roster them into the, say that for me, Misty.
The fifth?
Roster into the SIS now and the summer interventions after May 5th.
That is correct.
And then here we have a nice timeline for you to please use this and check it, combine it with what you are learning from the summer learning guidance document. A difference in mathematics is we will analyze the middle of the year student data from the approved assessment and start your list of invitees for summer programs then if students show deficiency, and then monitor their performance through the end of the year administration of the formative benchmark assessment. And you can take them off the list if they're improving, but that you can go ahead and be creating those lists and rostering those students. And then as we move to daily, we're going to enter the attendance. Reading, K3 is going to be done in reading, 4-5 with math. And we're repeating this because it's new information for you. We want to make sure you get it. And then we're going to enter time spent in mathematics instruction. And then there's a note here under biweekly that about the reading deficiencies, and you can contact Misty if you have questions about that. And then at the end, be sure you administer that summer administration of the formative benchmark assessment and close out summer camp interventions.
Great, thank you
I
so
think
much.
that's back to you, Jeff.
Yeah, thank y'all both. I really hope you see the efforts we have in trying to be consistent across the reading and math camps. The goal is to make it cohesive and to provide clarity, because we know clarity is key. So if there is something that isn't clear, we encourage you to reach out so we can continue to make it more clear for our districts. So if you see something that doesn't make sense, reach out to those regional partners and let us know. We have said this several times, but we just want to make sure that we are as proactive as possible with summer learning as far as attendance goes. That is one of the reports for our legislative report. The final legislative report we show is the number of students who were invited and compare that with the number of students who actually attended. The best way for that to happen within the platform is to make sure that we bulk add all of those students to the summer in the SIS platform, So we've encouraged you and said that several times. Make sure you can do that now. As soon as you've watched this, you can start listing all the students who've been invited. And then again, after May 5th, you can actually start withdrawing students. So if a student that you know of that you invited right now, make sure you move all the students invited over. But then if you know between now and the start of your program, or excuse me, between May 5th and the start of the program, you can actually withdraw them from that intervention, move them all in, and then after May 5th, you can withdraw them from the intervention. Or you can wait until 3 days after summer learning begins and withdraw the students then. It's totally your choice. If you have time before summer camp and you know for a fact that students were invited and they are not attending, maybe you sent out an invitation to parents and parents either denied it or said they wouldn't be there, you don't withdraw them until May 5th. But if you know for a fact they're not coming and want to get a head start to kind of minimize that roster down for your summer learning teachers, after May 5th, you can withdraw those students. Or you can wait until after summer learning begins and withdraw students then. Either way, we want you to remove those students after summer learning begins because it makes the whole platform look a little simpler for our teachers and the people who are entering the data. So I would say once the summer camp begins, give students a few days, and for your no-show students who maybe didn't indicate earlier that they weren't going to attend, but you've noticed a pattern after 3 days that they will actually not be coming to camp, you can withdraw them then. The instructions are on this slide. They'll also be in the one-pager, the link to that video, also on the YouTube screen. So we won't spend much time talking about this, but you can see where in the sample on the screen, the screenshot, there's a withdrawal tab or withdrawal link that you can click. I would encourage you just from the outside looking in to look at any kind of bulk action you can do. So if you have several students that you're moving out at the exact same time, on the left-hand side of your screen, you can click multiple students or click all students and then remove the ones that are staying. You can click bulk actions and withdraw them all at the exact same time. And that will hopefully save your whoever's entering your data information will save them some time in this process.
And
Jeff,
Jeff,
go ahead.
we're probably going to say the same thing. Please
Yeah.
lean on your Power School coaches and your Power School experts at your school for information to make this process simpler.
Yeah.
What did you want to add to that, Misty?
So I love that we were thinking similar things. I also think, Jeff and Nikki, that since we're talking about attendance, it might be a good time to go back to what I mentioned before, that for K through 3, summer reading is going to be the primary pathway for students. And for 4th and 5th, math is going to be the primary pathway for students. So when thinking of attendance, K through 3 students are going to have their attendance taken in a summer reading intervention, and all 4th and 5th grade students are going to have their attendance taken in a summer math intervention. And then the Office of Mathematics Improvement will use our reading summer data to get their attendance. And in the 4th and 5th grade math camps, if a student is attending for a reading specific goal, there will be a place where that can be documented in the math side of interventions. This allows for you in the school to only take attendance on that child once that day. You don't have to go to a summer reading and a summer math to take their attendance. We, as a team, are going to share data with one another.
Thank you for that clarification. The last thing you do at the end of summer camp, so you'll do your withdrawals within the first 3 days. And then at the end of summer camp, you're going to mark your students complete in each of their interventions. So you can see where you'll change your status to actually close it out. We are, again, hoping that this may be an automatic process, but within that timeline that Misty and Nikki both shared, just make sure that you confirm either way that your students have been closed out. So let's say that if you don't have to close them out, we will hopefully make that automated for you. But either way, your part of the process is to ensure that all students are closed out within those summer camp interventions. And then the last thing we wanted to mention, as far as reporting goes, is we're really excited also. You people who are listening to this presentation can be some of the first to know that we are presenting, again, another unified memo that will be coming out before the end of the school year that talks about all of the reporting requirements from ARI and OMI that are related to the Literacy Act and Numeracy Act. You may or may not know that we have a legislative deadline of September 30th. So both of our sections are going to be requiring that all reporting be completed by September 16th, which gives both sections time to validate data, to correct any errors, to speak with you if there are issues that need to be remedied before September 30th. And again, this is something that I want to reiterate is for a specific purpose, and it's not just something that we arbitrarily decided that we wanted our districts to do. This actually is a direct, it actually feeds into the legislative report that is required by law. And so we're really excited that our goal is to unify these processes and to make sure that we are as cohesive as possible within our teams. We hope that you'll notice that. And I'm just going to speak on behalf of those two teams and say I hope that you'll reach out and thank them for their hard work in really making these processes as streamlined as possible and as unified as possible and cohesive as possible. That's our ultimate goal. And we appreciate, again, you working with us as we make that happen. This platform is new for everyone. And so we are continuing to iron out all the details and keep you as up to date on any changes as possible. But I appreciate you and look for that memo. Ask your superintendents to be looking for that memo about reporting requirements before the end of the school year so that you know exactly what is required of you when September rolls around. We want to send a couple last minute reminders. Number one, both ladies mentioned that we have the Power School YouTube channel, the Power School videos that Stacy Royster and her team have. I mean, they are on top of this. This is something that is as nationally known, the work they put into curating videos and tutorials for our teachers and our employees. So if you have not seen the Power School YouTube channel, it is an amazing resource. There are videos for just about everything. So I'd encourage you to look at those videos, specifically the ones we've highlighted for summer learning. But as you have questions, those are a really great first dip into resources. And if you still have questions, reaching out to someone from the Power School team. And then the last thing I mentioned earlier is that all of these resources will be linked to the guidance, the summer learning guidance document on page 20. You can access it through clicking this link directly in the presentation. You're going to be able to find all of these resources on any of our 3 websites or Sways or Google Sites or any kind of communication that you get. If you have any questions or if you see a resource that's not here, please again reach out to one of your regional partners. We are all on this together and to help you out. I love to see our Alabama Achieves logo over on the right side of our screen, knowing that we're all in this together for every child, every chance, every day. Thanks for listening to this presentation. And Misty or Nikki, if you have anything else to say, feel free to chime in. Otherwise, please look through the presentation and stay in touch.